My mom said, if you can't afford it, stay behind. So I did. Then I got an alert my credit card had been used. 4 business class tickets. All their names. None of mine. I opened my app, dispute it all, locked the account. Kayla texted from check-in, "Why is nothing paid for?" I replied, "What you said." And that's when everything changed. It wasn't always like this. Or maybe it was, and I just didn't have the language for it. When I was younger, I thought love meant picking up the slack. I thought being a good daughter meant saying, "I understand," even when I was the one left behind. I was 11 when Kayla got her first solo birthday party at the skating rink, and I was told I could help with cleanup. At 15, I got a hand-me-down dress while Kayla got custom alterations. She needs to look her best. Mom said, "You're not that kind of girl anyway." I believed them. I told myself I wasn't that kind of girl. I was the steady one, the dependable one, the nurse in the making who could clean her own cuts and calm her own nerves. I wasn't flashy. I didn't cause problems. I made honor roll while Kayla cried overseas and still got a new phone as a reward for trying. But back then, I thought it was just family dynamics, normal favoritism. I didn't see it as the start of a pattern, one where love was earned and silence was expected. After college, I went straight into nursing. No breaks, no gap years, no soul-searching retreats across Europe, just school debt night shifts and rent. And even then, even in the thick of it, I paid Kayla's rent once when Derek lost his sales job and she just needed a month to breathe. It turned into 8 months. I paid Dad's MRI deductible when his blood pressure spiked and he refused to go to urgent care because we're not made of money. He didn't even say thank you, just nodded and said, "That's what family does." That was the phrase that kept me leashed to their needs. That's what family does. But when I got sick, really sick last winter, I asked Mom for help. I was coughing so hard I couldn't stand my fever spiking after 3 straight nights of ER shifts during flu season. I asked her if she could drop off some soup or Pedialyte. She said, "Sweetheart, I promised Kayla I'd watch the kids while she gets her nails done. You understand, right?" And I did. I always understood. That's how it was. One-directional love with me on the giving end. I didn't expect flowers or grand gestures, just awareness, recognition that I existed outside of usefulness. But I didn't get that. What I got was a slow, steady erosion of self-worth framed as responsibility. I tried to break the pattern in small ways. Said no once when Kayla asked to borrow my car for a weekend trip. She didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. Said, "I'm not sure I can help" when Dad mentioned needing a co-signer for a new loan. He stopped calling me by name, started saying things like, "You always used to be the generous one." Guilt is a powerful tool when wielded by people who raised you. But I still hoped. I still sent birthday cards. I still invited them to my apartment once a year. Bought wine Mom liked. Kept Dad's favorite cookies stocked. I still transferred $150 just for now when Kayla texted that Derek's account had overdrawn again, because I thought if I kept giving, maybe they'd see me. That hope flickered again when they mentioned the Hawaii trip. Kayla sent me a selfie in her new swimsuit with the caption, "Countdown to Maui." I hadn't been invited, but part of me wondered if they'd surprise me if Mom would call and say, "You've done so much for us, Abby. Come with us." Instead, she called during my shift change speaker on her voice, cutting through my exhaustion like paper through skin. "Flights are canned down $200 each," she said, casually. "If you can't afford it, stay behind." I was still in my scrubs, sweat-stained and sore, holding a cup of vending machine coffee. I nodded. I even smiled. I said, "Of course. I'll stay behind." And she chirped back, "It's been a rough year for everyone. We deserve this. Everyone." As if I wasn't part of that everyone. They were heading to Maui. Mom, Dad, Kayla, Derek. Business class, of course. I stayed behind, but not in the way they expected. And that's where it really begins. I didn't cry when they told me I wasn't invited. I didn't scream when they casually priced me out of the family. I didn't even flinch when Mom said, "If you can't afford it, stay behind." But something in me cracked hours later, quietly and visibly. It was around midnight after another double shift. I'd finally taken off my shoes, my feet throbbing, my back aching, and sat down for the first time all day. I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed. I expected it to be a spam text or a pharmacy reminder. Instead, it was a fraud alert from my credit card app. 4 large purchases flagged. 4 business class tickets to Maui. Price $1 $200 each. Vendors Hawaiian Airlines. Passenger names Derek B., Kayla B., Sandra M., William M. Billing. Account mine. There it was, in black and white. They used my credit card to book their luxury vacation. Without asking. Without warning. Without shame. I stood there, toothbrush in my mouth, foam dripping down my chin, just staring. My fingers went cold. A pulse started hammering behind my eyes. And for a moment, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was some kind of glitch. But no. Those names were clear. My family, my money, their seats. And not one of them had bothered to include me. They didn't even buy an extra economy seat to pretend I was wanted. I wasn't a guest, I was the invisible bank. I didn't panic. Not yet. I sat down, phone in hand, heart thudding. I tapped the app, pulled up the transactions, and hit dispute all. Then I locked the account with a simple press of my thumb. No dramatic goodbye, no lengthy message. Just no more. I closed the app, brushed the toothpaste from my lips, and stared at myself in the mirror. The overhead light flickered softly, and I saw myself clearly for the first time. Not a nurse, not a helper, not the good daughter. Just a woman tired of being bled dry. An hour passed. I was curled on the couch with a heating pad on my back when my phone lit up again. A text from Kayla. Why is nothing paid for? We're at check-in. I stared at her message. My chest was hollow. There was no, hey, no, how, are you not even a question mark? Just blame entitlement, like I'd failed some family obligation I didn't know I'd signed up for. I read it again. Why is nothing paid for? As if it was my job. As if I was the secretary of their comfort, the treasurer of their indulgence. I typed back one sentence, what you said, and I put my phone face down. That was it. That was the moment I stopped being silent. I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't drag myself to another 12-hour shift. Instead, I booked a getaway for myself, nothing extravagant, just a cozy cottage up north, 3 hours outside the city near a lake. Quiet, solitary. Mine. No guilt-tripping texts. No crying voicemails. No Derek asking for gas money. No Kayla sending funny memes about how sisters bail each other out. Just me. I packed light. A journal, a book I'd been meaning to read for 6 months, my hiking boots. I turned off my phone for the first full day, let the silence breathe. But when I turned it back on that evening, I saw the calls. 5 missed from Dad, 3 from Mom. Kayla had sent a string of texts, all variations of, "You're being dramatic. We needed that upgrade, you know. Derek's knees swell. You've ruined everything." Not a single one said sorry. That night, I sat on the porch of my little cabin, wrapped in a fleece blanket, staring out at the still lake. My chest felt strange, not broken, not hollow, clear. And I realized something. They weren't shocked that I'd been used. They were shocked that I noticed. Because I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to accept it. Quietly, like always. But this time, I said no, and they had no idea how to handle that. It didn't end with the dispute. It didn't end with Kayla's meltdown at check-in or Dad's string of voicemails that grew increasingly desperate, then angry, then quiet again. It didn't end because for the first time in years, I didn't need it to end quickly. I wasn't racing to fix things. I wasn't trying to smooth it over, hold the peace, or glue myself back into a family that only called me when something broke. I let it burn. The flames weren't loud or dramatic. They were slow, clinical, like cauterizing a wound. 2 days after locking my credit card, I opened my laptop. I hadn't turned it on in weeks, not for anything personal. Work had taken over so much of my life that emails, finances, even the idea of a spreadsheet made me physically tired. But that morning, I felt different. I opened a blank Excel document and titled it Reimbursement Ledger, Family Charges, 24 months, and I started filling it in. $600. Kayla's engagement dress charged to my card, never repaid. $2,500. Loan to Kayla and Derek after he lost his job, never acknowledged. $800. Dad's MRI deductible. $420. Grocery delivery for Mom when she forgot her wallet. $800. Business class Hawaii tickets charged without consent. $150 late fees and interest after card hit max due to above. Total $9,270 I rounded down. I was feeling generous. Then I wrote a short message. Calm, cold, unmistakably final. Per your recent use of my financial credentials and the ongoing pattern of unreimbursed expenses, I am formally requesting repayment of the following items. Full documentation attached. I will no longer be covering or subsidizing any family-related costs moving forward. If this amount is not repaid within 30 days, I will submit a formal fraud report to my credit institution and proceed accordingly. This is not a discussion. This is a boundary. I CC'd the entire family group chat, then I hit send. The responses came fast. Kayla. Are you serious who sends invoices to their own family mom? This is hurtful and unnecessary, Abigail. You're making a mountain out of a misunderstanding. Dad. We raised you better than this. That line. That final line. It landed like a slap across my face because they didn't raise me. They used me. I raised myself through the dark nights, the underpaid jobs, the mounting debt. I stitched my life together between shift schedules and bank overdrafts. They weren't there when I stayed up until 4 a.m. studying for board exams, or when I cried on the kitchen floor wondering how I'd make rent and keep the lights on. They were never there, not really. I stared at Dad's message for a long time, then replied with 2 sentences. You didn't raise me. I covered for all of you and I let you take and take, but that ends now. Then I blocked Kayla. I didn't block Mom and Dad, not out of softness, but curiosity. I wanted to see how far they'd go. The next morning, I got the answer. They showed up. I heard the knock before I saw them through the peephole standing in my hallway like ghosts from a past life. Mom had a manila folder in her hand. Dad stood rigid in the same Hawaiian shirt he wore on the vacation I never went on. Abigail opened the door, he called. We need to talk. I didn't move. He knocked again, louder. Abigail. Still nothing. 7 minutes. That's how long they stood there. I timed it. Then they left. That night, I received a voicemail from Mom. Her voice sounded shaky, rehearsed. You really hurt your father today. He flew back early to speak to you, after everything we've done for you. Done for me, not to me. I saved the voicemail, not for nostalgia, for evidence, proof that I wasn't imagining it, that even now, even after stealing from me, they saw themselves as the victims. The next day, Kayla tried calling again. Then this gem arrived. Grow up. You can't punish the whole family over one misunderstanding. That word again, misunderstanding. As if identity theft was just a clerical error, as if draining me dry for years was a funny mix-up. I stared at my phone, calm, composed, eerily detached. I wasn't mad, not anymore. I was done. Done justifying my existence with generosity. Done being the only adult in a room full of grown children. Done holding up a house of cards just so they could keep pretending it was a mansion. They thought silence meant surrender. But my silence wasn't submission. It was strategy. And behind it, I was building something they couldn't see coming. The thing about pulling away from people who survive on your compliance is that they don't take it quietly. They flail, they panic, they twist their voices into shapes meant to resemble love but feel more like leashes. 2 days after the invoice, they returned, same spot outside my apartment, same condo hallway I'd walked them through so many times before when I still believed I owed them comfort. This time, Mom had a folder, probably filled with receipts and rationalizations. Dad looked tired, angrier than before, like a man shocked. His magic trick stopped working. I opened the door, not because I wanted to, because I wanted them to see what unshakable looked like. You need to talk to us, Mom said, her voice trembling. No, I said softly, I really don't. Dad stepped forward. This stunt, the invoice freezing the credit, it's spiteful. We are your family. I didn't blink. And you used my name and card without permission. That's not family, that's theft. Mom stepped in, voice higher now. We didn't think it'd be an issue. You always help. Because you trained me to, I cut in. You've treated me like a debit card since I was 22. And I let you. I let you guilt me into silence every time. I helped because I believed saying no meant I wasn't a good daughter. Her eyes filled with tears. Real maybe, but they didn't move me. I'm done being the good daughter. Don't talk to your mother like that, Dad snapped. Don't talk to me like I owe you something. I replied, my voice sharp and calm. I work double shifts while Kayla and Derek drink mimosas at LAX on my dime. I paid your hospital bills while you called me selfish behind my back. He pointed a trembling finger. You think this makes you strong? Turning your back on family. No, I said, but it makes me free. And I shut the door. Not a slam, just firm, final. They didn't knock again. Later that night, I got another voicemail. Mom's voice was smaller, this time hollowed out. She said, I don't know who you are anymore. And for the first time in my life, I smiled at those words. Because she was right. I wasn't the woman they knew. I wasn't a donor. I wasn't a backup plan. I wasn't a walking guilt trip redemption arc. I was someone who had stepped outside the system and realized she could breathe without their weight. But the universe wasn't done yet. The next day, my bank pinged me again. Another attempted charge on the same frozen credit card, this time for a car rental in Maui. I called the fraud line immediately. The agent read the ID used, Derek's. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't, not yet, but I had it documented. In the subject line of the email to myself, I typed evidence in case they escalate. An hour later, I got a text from an unknown number. We're stranded. Are you seriously going to leave your family like this after everything we've done for you? Kayla. Everything they had done for me, I laughed. It was bitter, sharp, but freeing. I didn't reply. I screenshot it and filed it into a folder I'd just created on my desktop, Family Patterns I Won't Repeat. And then just when I thought the dust had settled, came Marissa. Yes, that Marissa, Derek's ex-wife. We hadn't spoken in years. She was the one who escaped. The one I always thought was too smart for him, too sharp-edged for our family's saccharine toxicity. I got a Facebook message from her at 10:42 p.m. Hey, Abigail, sorry to drop in like this, but we should talk. I stared at her name, the words, heart steady. I replied, is this about Derek? She sent a thumbs up, then a file, a PDF. I hesitated, then opened it. Screenshots, bank transfers, withdrawals. Derek had been rerouting money from a family emergency account one Mom and Dad had set up after his last business failed. They'd given him full access. No oversight. He was gambling again, crypto this time. Wild, erratic investments, full paper trail, that the worst part. There were emails, one from Mom begging Marissa not to report anything. If Abigail finds out, we'll lose her completely. Another from Dad, we'll fix this. She doesn't need to know. They knew. They all knew. And they hid it from me. Because they were afraid that the goose would stop laying golden eggs. The plane tickets weren't the betrayal. They were the symptom. I called Marissa immediately. She picked up on the second ring. I wasn't sure you'd even want to talk, she said. I'm glad you sent it, I replied. She exhaled into the phone. I couldn't keep watching them bleed you. I know how they treated you. I know how Derek used you. I asked her why now. She was quiet for a moment, then said something I'll never forget. Because you're finally doing what I should have done years ago, walking away. And I thought you deserved the truth. I thanked her. We hung up. I printed every page, every screenshot, every message, stapled them into a file, placed them on my desk. Then I slept. Really slept. Window open, breeze cool on my skin, no guilt, no buzzing anxiety, just the sound of peace where their noise used to live. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Dad. His voice wasn't angry this time, it was something worse. Hollow. Worn thin like the bottom of an old shoe. Abigail, I don't know what to say. Your mother is sick with stress. Kayla's not eating. Derek. He's not doing well. We made mistakes, sure, but you've made your point. I'm asking man to woman. Can we please talk? I stared at the screen. Man to woman. As if this was a negotiation between professionals, not a father begging his daughter to ignore fraud and gaslighting. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the PDF Marissa sent me, attached it to the original invoice, added a new line item, unauthorized use of emergency account funds by Derek B. Documented. Then I resent it. This time I CC'd Aunt Linda, my mother's older sister, the one who had once pulled me aside at a family reunion, and whispered, "You're not crazy. I see how they treat you." Just for fun, I also sent a redacted copy to Dad's employer, HR, anonymous tip. 3 days later, I checked the company website. His name was gone. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt clean, detached. Meanwhile, my real life, began blooming in the silence they left behind. I enrolled in therapy, real in-person sessions. No apps, no filters, just me, a room, and truth. I bought a bike. I took long walks in the evenings. I lit candles without a reason. I started cooking again, not rushed stir-fries or microwave meals, real food, chopped herbs, simmered sauces, dishes that made me feel human. I saw David again, the kind man from the hospital cafeteria, who once held the elevator for me when my hands were full of charts and empty of energy. He didn't know my family. He didn't ask for my history. He just listened. When I told him about everything about the invoice, the fraud, the files, he didn't flinch. He said, "I'm proud of you for not letting it turn you bitter." And that was the first time I cried. Not from pain, from relief. Weeks passed. Then a letter arrived. No return address, 5 pages. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Kayla. It wasn't an apology. It was a monologue wrapped in manipulation. We all make mistakes. You took it too far. Mom cries every day. You've turned your back on blood. At the end, she wrote, "We're family." Nothing changes that. And she was right. That was what made it worse. Because strangers didn't do this to me. My family did. People who knew my soft spots. People who watched me bleed and called it generosity. People who stole my oxygen and told me to be grateful for the silence. I folded the letter and placed it on top of the Marissa file. Then I locked them both in a drawer. 2 nights before my birthday, I got a small envelope in the mail. No note, no message, just a check. $7,870. Exact to the penny. The number on my original invoice, I didn't cash it right away. I pinned it above my desk next to a quote I had printed in bold. "You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm." The check was a receipt, not redemption. A symbol, not closure. Closure came weeks later when I ran into Mom. It was an accident. I was grabbing espresso at a quiet downtown cafe. Hoodie up, earbuds and brain still half asleep. Then I heard her voice, "Abigail." I looked up, and there she was, smaller than I remembered. Not just physically, her presence, her power, shrunk. She smiled like we were old friends. "Can we sit?" she asked. I nodded. I was too tired to say no, and too sure of myself to fear it. We sat outside under a yellow umbrella. She talked first, rambling, soft, nostalgic. No real apology. No acknowledgement of the files. No mention of Derek trying to use my card again. No word about Kayla's threats or the voicemail where Dad said I'd embarrass the family. Just memory revision. We were just trying to hold things together. We didn't realize how much you were carrying. If we could go back... She stopped mid-sentence. "Do you hate us now?" I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "But I don't owe you anything anymore." She blinked, visibly startled. "But we're family," she whispered. I took a sip of my coffee. The bitterness felt perfect. "That's not an argument," I said. That's an excuse. She opened her purse, handed me another envelope, stood up, smiled again, fragile. I hope you'll come back to us someday. I looked at her calm. I already did. I came back to tell you I'm not coming back. She walked away. When I opened the envelope, it was another check. Blank note field. Just silence with a $sign. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just breathed. And for the first time in years, the air felt clean. I didn't cash the check right away. I left it pinned above my desk, fluttering slightly whenever the window was open. Not as a trophy, as a reminder, a symbol of the price they thought could buy back silence, control, access. But I wasn't theirs anymore. 2 weeks later, I took the check to the bank and deposited it into a new account I'd opened under a name they didn't know. Then I transferred the entire amount to a scholarship fund for first-generation nursing students. Girls like I used to be shouldering family burdens while trying to survive anatomy exams and overnight shifts. It felt right, like closing a loop, like handing off a torch I never should have had to carry alone. Because somewhere out there, there's another young woman paying for her father's prescriptions out of a tip jar. Another sister who's told you're stronger as a reason to carry everyone else's weight. Another daughter apologizing for asking to be seen. Let her know she's not alone. Let her know this isn't normal. Let her know she's allowed to stop. Not long after that, I got one final voicemail from Dad. You've made your point, Abigail. You've embarrassed us. But family isn't a transaction. You'll regret this. That sentence echoed for a while. Family isn't a transaction. Funny, because for them it always was. I just never sent the bill, but regret. No, I didn't regret a thing. What I did regret was all the years I spent thinking my worth was directly tied to how useful I was, how available, how easy to manipulate. I regret never questioning why love felt like labor, but not anymore, because my life now, it's mine. David and I moved in together this fall. It's a small apartment full of secondhand furniture and sunlight. We cook dinners side by side, nothing fancy, just shared, balanced. He never makes me feel like I have to earn rest, or love, or respect. The first time I told him everything about the years of bankrolling, the manipulated guilt. The Hawaii trip he didn't interrupt, didn't judge, didn't try to fix it. He just took my hand, looked me dead in the eye and said, I'm glad you got out. We're building something, slowly, carefully, not a replacement for what I lost. A beginning I chose. Sometimes late at night, I still think about Kayla's letter. We're family. Nothing changes that. But she was wrong, because I changed. And I changed everything. I changed the locks. I changed the story. I changed the ending. And that's the real betrayal, isn't it? Not that I said no, but that I didn't come crawling back. That I didn't beg for forgiveness. That I didn't fold under the pressure of, but we're family. I said, I'm not your safety net. And I meant it. They called it cruel. I call it freedom. Months have passed now. My birthday came and went. No calls, no texts. But I did get one card in the mail. No return address, handwritten, 3 words inside. And I see you. It was from Marissa. And in that moment, I smiled. Because someone finally did. Not as a role, not as a wallet, not as a fixer, as me. And when I look in the mirror now, I don't see someone burned out from giving. I see someone who rebuilt herself from the ashes of silence, stronger, quieter, wiser, still a daughter, still a sister, but no longer their lifeline. I carry my own weight now, my own name, my own peace, and the door I closed that day, it's still shut. Only now the key is in my pocket, and it's staying there. If you've ever felt like your worth was measured by what you gave and not who you are, know this. You're not alone. You're not wrong. And you're allowed to stop. Drop your story in the comments. And if you've ever closed a door to save yourself, tell us what happened after. We see you. We believe you. And you never ever need to apologize for walking away. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Someone out there needs this more than you know.